As of GeneXus 15, we may manage playlists and include an audio player that can show the playlist in mini mode, as we're seeing here for Android, and here for iOS, or in full screen mode, as shown in the images. Here, for both Android and iOS, we have the playlist panel that is invoked from the application menu to see My Playlist, which is the logged in user's playlist, and that shows first in a grid all the songs that the user has guessed. And here below, we have an audio player that allows you to listen to them. The playlist player is implemented with the new audio controller control. How does it know which playlist must be played? From where should it get the data of the songs to be played? If we take a look at the content of the media module, we will see all the SDTs we marked in this image which are related to the audio API. One of them, media queue, is the one that enables us to store the data necessary for the reproduction queue that will be managed by the audio controller. So in other words, it'll be enough with loading a variable of the type of the predefined SDT media queue, which has a collection of items of the media item type, that stores, in turn, the data relative to a song. In our case, we will load it from the database, starting with a user transaction that contains a song sublevel with the songs guessed by that user. In the panel shown, we're using the media queue variable both for showing its collection of items on a grid and for playing them with the audio controller. We have the audio API to manage what's played. And we will see that, to the methods that the API already had, it adds the methods for managing play queues, and it also adds events. Here we show separately those for managing queues and their management, and those for customizing the player, the possibility of adding different actions from those already defined, like stop, pause, resume, and so on. If we go back to our example, when we will only allow the possibility of playing the queue with the player, then it will suffice with programming the client start event as shown. Here we see that we are using a data provider, getMediaQueue, passing it the user ID. What this data provider is going to do is search in this table of users, it'll filter by the user it receives by parameter, the songs corresponding to that user. This data provider will return a value of the type of this SDT, that is, the title of the queue, and all its items, all the songs. And then all we have to do is invoke the setQueue method of the external audio object, passing it that play queue. Now the question that opens up is, how do we configure the player design? The player enables the configuration, at design time, of the properties we see in the theme's audio controller class. In our example, we see that in mini mode, the title and subtitle labels are shown in pink, with different font sizes. And in full mode, we see the title and subtitle in white, and the buttons with the app's pink colors. All this, then, was configured with the audio controller class of the mini player and full screen player group. Here are some of the buttons that correspond to the predefined actions of the audio driver. For example, the possibility to press play or pause. But we might want to define our own buttons, with specific actions for a play queue. So to do this, we have the audio player settings SDTs, which, as we can see, have a fixed level that allows us to define whether or not any of the predefined options are used, for example, like the repeat or shuffle option. And we also see that it has a collection of custom action elements of the type from this other SDT, audio player custom action. Here what is done is to define the title, image, and give an identifier to the action that is going to correspond to those buttons that we are going to add to the controller. The way to identify them is going to be with this ID here. Then, at the audio API level, this Set Player Settings option appears, which receives as parameter, let's see, a variable of this type. It would, in effect, be like a metadata of the buttons that are going to be added along with these actions here. And then we need an event that allows us to code what to do if the user presses one of the custom buttons here. To do this, we have the custom action event event. We would code the custom action event event of the audio API, passing it, as we can see, these two parameters. The corresponding action ID will be the one that identifies a button of this SDT. In short, of this collection. It will correspond to the button pressed by the user. So we program it with a do case, which is now supported in GeneXus 15 in client-side events. Remember that before it was not possible. And what we do now is, with that do case command, according to which of these buttons identified by the action ID is the one that triggered the action, do the right thing in that case. We can quickly see that we have a lot of methods and events to be able to, for example, manage the queue state change, that is, if it changed, or, for example, if the item that was playing had finished. Or, to set the play queue, we already saw it, play, pause, and so on. You can find more information about this topic in our wiki.